we're continuing along our journey of looking at more weird but wonderful racing automobiles from one of Japan's major motorsport championships. And we'll begin this episode with a car that actually has its origins in Grand Am racing in North America. Not the sort of vehicle you'd have expected to be used/adapted to become a Super GT car, however for 7 seasons in the GT300 class, that's exactly what we saw from 2006 to 2012. The car in question was called the Mooncraft Shiden. Mooncraft were formed in 1975 and have at least in part already been featured in this series, as they were part of the Lotus Evora project. The Mooncraft Shiden was created in a way to pay homage to the same constructor's Group 6 prototype racer from 1977, which was called the Mooncraft Shiden 77. But to create this car, they used a Raleigh-built Daytona Prototype as the car's backbone, if you will, in the form of its chassis. Now beyond the chassis, pretty much everything else was created without anything from the DP. That included the car's engine, which was a Toyota-derived, albeit tuned somewhat, 4.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 that was placed in the middle. At least initially, as after the first season it ran a slightly larger 4.4 litre engine, which is what it ran until the car wasn't able to be campaigned any longer in the series. Now the somewhat strange thing about this is that the team that were running the car in Super GT was the Cars Tokai Dream 28 team. They are the racing division of a chain of Honda dealerships in the Tokai region, despite running with a Toyota-derived engine in the car. I think what I'm beginning to learn more about with Super GT as I'm doing this series is that it doesn't really matter much if there's some different car brand allegiances going on at the same time, which is good to see, to be honest. In terms of the car's performance, well, it was pretty fast. In 2007, the car would collect the Constructors' Championship. It would usually score consistent points, and across its 59 races would earn 4 victories, and 8 pole positions too. 2012 would be the car's last year though, as cars that were built with minimal production models or none at all would not be allowed to compete. And seeing as no road-going versions of this car were made, it would no longer be able to compete. The car may return in the form of a road car, but in terms of racing, it's not looking all that hopeful at the moment. The rule of not allowing low-volume, bespoke-like production cars into the GT300 class also befell cars made by the little-known company called Vemac. Now when I say cars, I do mean multiple cars, because there were 3 different versions of the Vemac that were created for Super GT competition. Vemac first entered into the GT300 class with the RD320R in 2002 at the second round of the season at Fuji. Its success was immediate, with it collecting pole and the victory. The team would collect 2 more victories, and got to the point of where the R&D Sport team that was running the car got its 2 drivers, Shogo Mitsoyama and Shinsuke Shibahara, to second in the Drivers' Championship. A great start, but that would be its best year, as any RD320R run by any team afterwards wasn't able to get as near to the championship summit, irrespective of which engine was put in the car. For most of the time, the car had a Honda-derived V6 from the NSX. However, Team Mac ran a car that included the flat 6 engine from a Porsche. The next car introduced by Vemac was the RD350R, which does look fairly similar to the RD320R, however it was a bit lower, a bit wider, a bit longer, and was different aerodynamically. The main difference though was the engine, which was a more powerful 4 litre naturally aspirated Zytec built V8. When this car debuted in 2003, it was actually placed in the GT500 class. However, its season wasn't great, to put it politely. The car would exit out of the GT500 class and later be raced in the GT300 category, but needed to have some restrictors placed on the engine to reduce the car's power and make it more compliant with the class. Whilst this did perform better in the GT300 class, it didn't collect any victories during its tenure, which ended in 2012. Then finally there was the RD408R, which was quite similar to the RD320R, except the most major difference being the engine. This time it was a 4 litre V8 Mugen power unit. It competed initially in GT500 at the last race of 2004, but didn't do very well and wasn't seen in GT500 again. So again, like the RD350R, the car was brought down to the GT300 class, where it again found more success, even a couple of victories. As the tenure of the RD408R continued, it would have a bigger 4.5 litre Mugen V8 put inside, whilst Team Mac would once again put a Porsche flat 6 engine in their RD408R. 2010 would be the last year of competition for this car, whilst 2012 would be the last year of Vemac in Super GT competition, thanks to the bespoke, low-volume brands being phased out of the class. Vemac was dissolved in October of 2019. Now this next car might be the craziest to have featured in this miniseries so far. This might resemble a Lamborghini Countach, but this is certainly not a Countach. It's actually a kit car called the RGS Mirage GT1. Built in the UK and equipped with a huge naturally aspirated Chevrolet V8. But the story begins racing wise for this car in the 1997 British GT Championship. Sadly, during the few years it raced in British GT, its best result was an 8th place, but would retire from several races. Despite the car's lack of success though, this car would be sold to Sri Lankan racing driver Dilantha Malagamuwa, who brought the car over to Japan and attempted to participate in a few races of the GT500 class of the JGTC in 2000, with the Team Sri Lanka entry. However, in the 4 races it tried to enter, it didn't race in any of them, one of which was because it caught fire. Now, it may not be too hard to understand why the car didn't qualify for some races, because in the qualifying sessions, it was qualifying in and amongst the GT300 class on speed. The Team Sri Lanka outfit changed to a Mosler for the 2001 JGTC season, and we'd see no more of the RGS in the GT500 class. But not in the GT300 class though, as in 2003, it was back with Team Lejeune. Once again though, it still wasn't that competitive. It did 6 races, failing to qualify for 2 of them, retiring from 3 of them, and finishing 14th in class in the 1 race it did finish. The team's campaign in that car was ended a few rounds before the season concluded, with Team Lejeune entering into the final round of Vemac RD320R, and that really was the end this time for the RGS Mirage GT1. A car that, despite having a rather tumultuous time in its life as a racing machine, still was cool to have on track. Possibly the strangest race car to have competed in JGTC/Super GT. Or does that crown go to this thing? I don't know what to say honestly at this point, but this just sums up this series perfectly. For those that don't know, this is a Renault Sport Spider. It had a one-make racing category in the mid to late 90s. However, for 2 events, in 1997 there was a GT300 version in the JGTC. It would only race in one of them and wouldn't be seen again. The Akuri Saifo team got the open top car to the finish in a very wet Sugo. I can't find much information about this entry sadly, which is a shame because I think this is something that really would be awesome to know more about for sure. But for now, it's just a very small piece of the incredible history of Japanese Grand Touring racing. How we're going to top this for the final episode, I'm not entirely sure, but we'll try. Yeah, with that being said, that'll be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then I'd be enormously appreciative if you did hit the like and subscribe buttons. Until the next video though, be kind to each other and enjoy the rest of your day.